HDB sudden announcement of an additional sales of balance flats exercise in July 2025 is a surprise. This is because in early 2024, the SBF frequency was reduced from 3 times a year to just 1 time per year. Given that the most recent SBF has just concluded in February of 2025, the July SBF is really unexpected. News reports indicate that approximately 3,000 flats will be released in the July 2025 SBF exercise, which is fewer than the 5,500 flats offered in February SBF, but it's still a significant amount of flats. Upon hearing this announcement, I wondered if the July SBF would primarily consist of units that remain unsold from the February SBF. However, when I reviewed the February SBF application rates, the median application rate for 3-room or larger flats for first-time families was 2.6, suggesting higher demand than supply. The 2-room flexi flats also significantly oversubscribed, particularly by first-time singles and seniors. For instance, in some area, the first-time single application rate exceeded 200. So imagine, for every 2-room flexi flat in Bedok allocated for singles, there were 285 applicants. The application rate in Hougang was even more astonishing, reaching 402. Therefore, I believe that the July 2025 SBF will mostly comprise balance flats that were not offered in February 2025. While, of course, some units from the February SBF might be reoffered in July, but I suspect this will not be the majority. There are both pros and cons of having an additional round of SBF this year. On the positive side, it does increase the housing supply, providing more Singaporeans with the opportunity to purchase an HDB flat. Home buyers will also gain access to a wider selection of flats in different locations. Hopefully, it would help to moderate the resale flat prices as well, because for some buyers who might be initially considering to buy a resale flat to shorten the wait time, they might move and switch to buy an SBF flat instead, because the wait time is still lower than a BTO, and also the price tends to be lower versus open market. Individuals who were unsuccessful in the previous SBF exercise essentially receive another chance without waiting for another year. Furthermore, those seeking to purchase a BTO flat statistically might have a higher chance if they apply in July. This is because the public interest will be partially diverted to SBF exercise, which means it will reduce the BTO competition as many prefer shorter waiting times. SBF exercises may also offer hidden gems. Despite of the stigma that only low-floor units are available, the February SBF exercise demonstrated to us that actually there were quite a lot of high-floor flats in desirable locations were offered. Naturally, of course, we must wait the announcement of the location and flat types offered in July SBF. However, overall, I believe this additional SBF round is a positive news and something to be anticipated. On the other hand, this situation presents a dilemma for aspiring home buyers. Why? Well, according to HDB rules, applicants can only apply for either a BTO or SBF flat at any given time. Therefore, they must choose which path to pursue. The July BTO exercise offers several attractive options as discussed in my previous videos. However, SBF typically provides shorter waiting times, and some flats are even already completed, making it a difficult choice. Furthermore, HDB has yet to define the rule that limits applicants to a specific town and flat type. This rule is particularly problematic for SBF because it includes not only flats under construction or recently completed, but also older HDB units repurchased by HDB. For example, in the February SBF exercise, a 4-room flat in Toa Payoh North, which is within walking distance to the Bradel MRT station, was offered. It was located on the 13th floor, which is relatively high, but unfortunately, the remaining lease is only 48 years. Another example, there was a 4-room flat in the Ang Mo Kio area that had a remaining lease of only 54 years, and it was on the 9th floor. Under the current HDB rule, if the applicants want to apply for SBF, they can only indicate the town and the flat type. For example, Ang Mo Kio 4-room flat, that's it. This means there is a risk that the available options may only be older flats. Remember that penalties apply if an applicant receives a ballot number and invited to book a flat but declines to select one. HDB will only waive the non-selection count if there are 5 or fewer SBF flats available for selection. So, should you opt for a BTO or SBF flat? My suggestion is to gather comprehensive information and create a short list for both SBF and BTO options. For SBF, details regarding the specific flats offered, the quantity available in your desired town, and the prevalence of older repurchased flats will only be accessible once the sales launch commences. For example, if you are interested in a 4-room flat in Ang Mo Kio, and then there are 500 SBF flats, then you need to find out how much is the older repurchased flats, and then you calculate the proportion. For example, if there are only 10 out of 500 which are older flats, then the risk is relatively low. But if, let's say, out of those 500 flats, there are like 100 flats which is already very old, then the risk is significantly higher. This is merely, of course, an illustration because the exact details for July SBF are yet to be disclosed. Once you have identified suitable SBF options, take note of the town and flat types. Subsequently, evaluate the BTO alternatives. You can go to my channel where I have a bunch of videos discussing the pros and cons of each BTO project in July 2025, and then from there, you can decide is there any particular BTO project that suits your preferences. And then, closer to the application deadline, review the application rates which are available online. Then you can assess what is the level of competition. Then you can make an informed decision to apply either SBF or BTO, and then this will be much easier if you have already shortlisted your options. Naturally, your decision will also depend on your flexibility to wait for the BTO flat, given that it takes longer to get the keys for a BTO compared to purchasing an SBF flat. Regardless of your chosen path, remember to apply for your HFE letter before mid of May to participate in the July BTO and SBF exercise. For detailed information on how to apply for HFE letter, check out the link in the description box below, as I have discussed this in a separate video. In conclusion, I wish all applicants the best, and I hope you will be able to get your ideal home soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye!